welcome to the Clifton Worley Show. This week we have a special Whirly Birds episode for you guys. We've got Michael Newman and we've got Douglas King. Josh can't be with us this week. He couldn't record with us, but he'll be back soon in the future. And so, guys, we had some words that we thought of that we didn't do last week on our Southern episode. And Michael, you have some of those. What are some of your thoughts on that?
Well, I thought the words they had to say were kind of bush leagues. So here's some. There's a lot of Southern words out there, but today I was at a store and I heard a lady say about her son that his britches were dirty. Can y'all say britches?
Okay, I'll let Doug go first.
Britches.
Britches.
And for you non-Southerners, that means his pants. That's what that means. And then biscuits and gravy.
Okay, Doug.
Biscuits and gravy.
Biscuits and gravy.
And then when I lived in Panama City, there was a town near us that we like to make fun of called Weewa Hitchka. Y'all ever heard of Weewa Hitchka?
No.
No.
For short, we called it Weewa, but why don't y'all say Weewa Hitchka?
Weewa Hitchka.
Weewa Hitchka.
There you go. Can y'all think of any other words? I had a bunch, but those are the few that I wrote down.
I've got a few that I can remember that, I've heard my wife say, and, I've said it a time or two, especially, if you're working on something and you get frustrated, you can't remember exactly what it's called. I've used several different words to describe that. I've called it a whatchamacallit. I've called it a thingamajig, a doodad, a doohickey, and, just a numerous amount of other words for exactly the same thing. But we can say a couple of those if you guys want to.
That sounds good.
Well, we'll start with whatchamacallit.
A whatchamacallit.
Whatchamacallit.
And a doohickey.
A doohickey.
Doohickey.
and for the non-Southern people, that's just another word for that thing. Or the object that you're trying. Yeah, a thingamabob. That thing you're trying to manipulate, the one thing that you're trying to work on.
Yeah. Yeah, there's so many, things, I guess, that have a cultural context to them. I thought of one. There's a lot of weird Southern town names. Okay. So, the town I work in is called Picayune. And anytime, I know somebody that's not from the area, and they come through, they're like, how do you say that? And there's a creek that runs through the middle of that town called Hobo La Chitta, and it's shortened to Bully Creek. But there's a sign right on the interstate that says Hobo La Chitta, and I'm assuming that's a lot of old Indian names for those creeks and towns, and I know. Well, Picayune is not. Picayune was the name of a Spanish coin that you used to buy a newspaper in New Orleans for a Picayune. That's where the Times Picayune came from. But anyways, we're not a history podcast, are we?
Yeah, so we're getting geological.
Yeah, geological and historical. Guys, I thought it'd be fun to we've kind of kept the discussion going throughout the week, and we all had kind of went different directions. And I want to start with you, Michael. Kind of tell me about your week, and I know you had an interesting weekend.
Yeah. So, long story short, I drove to Texas, and it's actually the Texas and Arkansas border. My wife's father's family did a family reunion, and we went to Texarkana and met up there and met a bunch of long lost cousins that didn't even know existed until a couple years ago. So anyway, we drove over there, and with two kids, it's a 8+ hour drive, but with stops, you're looking at 10.5 hours
Mm-hmm.
around that. So the drive there was okay. That last 2 hours coming back was real rough.
Mm-hmm. I bet.
Everybody was sick of being in the car, but we drove over Friday, did a thing that night, and then we did a family reunion thing on Saturday, and then on Sunday we got up early and drove back, and got back, I don't know, around 4, I don't know, a little after 4, and a buddy of mine who is a worship pastor here in town, his church, throughout the summer, about once a month during the summer months, they do this concert out on the beach. And so I dropped the kids off and unloaded the car and kind of helped as I could. And then I loaded up my gear and actually drove another 45 minutes down to the beach and spent some time playing with them. I hadn't played with them in a while, so it was rough, but I had a good time. They're kind of loosey goosey, not no click tracks, no nothing. I mean, they're good musicians, but it's just a little different than what my church gig is on a Sunday morning.
Yeah. Well, you threw up a live stream of that, and the angle you had on your guitar, was that like it's almost like your camera was clipped on your guitar. What was that?
Yeah, I actually bought this device to hold my camera. It's actually a little tiny tripod with legs that bend, and what I did is I just wrapped that around the headstock of my guitar and then attached the phone to it. It was on there a little precariously. It wasn't I would prefer something a little tighter, a little more sure, but it seemed to work out okay.
Yeah. Well, that was really interesting. I know I saw something interesting. I don't know if you intended this, but like the way the sunlight was hitting your guitar and stuff, like you could see your strings making like those sound waves that Josh was talking about on the episode with Pat Chin.
Ah, okay. Now I didn't intend that. It's just where the sun was.
Yeah, that was really cool to see that. I've
I'll
seen
have to
that in
go
a few
back and
videos since, and that's really cool.
yeah, that is cool. I have seen that. The first time I saw that was somebody put a camera inside of an acoustic guitar, and it was staring straight up, from the inside the guitar. It was staring straight up into the sky, and you could see very clearly the waves that the strings were making. That's very interesting. I didn't notice that. I'll have to go back and look.
Yeah. So you stopped through my neck of the woods, or kind of came through it on your way off to Texas.
I did, and I wish I had planned a little better and let you know that I was coming through there, but I wasn't quite sure where you were and where we would be. I just kind of hopped in the car and drove, but yeah.
I know. Like, so I was at we took our youth group at church to summer camp, and we were just south of Jackson, about 10 miles. So I actually didn't know you were coming through, but you sent me a message and said you were in Vicksburg, and you probably had passed me about 45-50 minutes before that.
Okay.
And but we were leaving, coming home, and then I don't know how you went back, but I'm sure where you turned to go back to Florida, you probably were within about 45 miles north of where I live.
Ah, okay.
It probably, like, did you go through Hattiesburg? Do you remember going through there?
Yes, we did go through Pittsburgh, correct.
Yeah, I'm about 35-40 miles south of there. So.
Okay.
So, yeah, it wasn't too far apart. Now that, man, so you literally got out of the car and went straight to the beach.
Yeah. Yeah, we pulled up to the house. I unloaded our luggage, the coolers, all the kids' stuff. Kind of got some of that settled, put some dishes in the dishwasher, backed the car up to where my equipment is, loaded my equipment, went in, kissed my kids goodnight, my wife goodnight, and then drove to the beach, which is 45 minutes from where I live.
Yeah. Yeah, that's I bet the glare out there was just huge, huh? You were under a covered stage.
We were under, yes, it is a covered stage, but the way the sun was angled in, they put me on the sunny side there on the west side, so I got full sun, and it's actually hard to see the Kemper lights when they're
Yeah,
getting
imagine.
direct sunlight, but it went down fairly quickly, and it was a beautiful evening. Oh, let me tell you this: while we were playing, the Blue Angels came by really close, like super close. It was like a fly. You know how they do that flyover sometimes
Yeah.
that scares you, or at least intends to scare you. That's exactly what happened, and they practice out there a good bit. So if you are on Pensacola Beach during certain times of the year, you will get to see them practice.
Yeah, but are you sure it was the Blue Angels, or is it the Blue Angels? Is it the plane or the pilot?
Well, I'm pretty sure it was both of them.
just double checking.
Yeah, I could not see the pilots inside. I did not look that close, but I guarantee you they were there.
That's funny. Yeah, what are they? They're based out of like Milton over there, right?
I mean, it's somewhere down here.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
well, there's the base
Mhm.
down there. There's the Naval Aviation Museum, which is really cool. It's almost oh shoot, what do they have up in Washington D.C.? Those cool museums.
Like the Smithsonian one.
Yeah, it's similar to that.
Yeah.
They got all these old planes and old, just old equipment. It's really cool to see, actually. If you're down in this area, I would definitely recommend seeing that.
Yeah. I think I went twice as a kid, but good grief, it's been over 20 years since I've been to that one. And I remember it being
Yeah.
really cool as a kid. But, well, here we are talking about history and geography again.
Yes, we are.
What about
Drifting
you,
off.
Doug? What's been going on with you?
Well, actually, it's been kind of a quiet week the past week, other than working. But now last weekend, I got invited to help out with a church group that's not too terribly far away from where I live. They're about 30, 45 minutes away. But for the past, I don't know, about 4 or 5 Saturdays, I've gone up and joined them in Mount Airy is in North Carolina. So it's about, I don't know, like I said, about 30, 45 minutes from me. But they were doing a build up to the church event. They called it the open doors service, and they were trying to get the community to, come out and take part in, a kind of free flowing, kind of like worship service. And, they had a short message. But in the Saturdays building up to that, a friend of mine asked me if I could assist them with some music because some of their other musicians wasn't going to be able to make it. And, I hadn't never even played with them, so I didn't know any of the songs they were wanting me to do. But I had to quickly learn a few songs, and I just packed up my acoustic for the first 3 times I went up there and played. And, we played for about an hour and a half right out on the street. So, nothing formal. But now this last Saturday when they had the event, what he asked me to do is he said, I've been trying to think of a way that, we can get a lot of attention. And, so I was like, well, just walking around with an acoustic guitar, I've seen people actually do that before. So I thought I might try to shake it up a little bit. So I borrowed from my father-in-law. He had one of those pig nose battery powered amps.
Yeah.
So, and I took that and my PRS, used like one of the little hooks that you can kind of hook, like I use it to hook my keys to my jeans, or like Michael said earlier, my britches. I used that to hook the top of the amp to my belt loop, plugged in my PRS, and was walking behind the guys that were holding the signs for the event with that thing cranked up as loud as it would go. I said, if that doesn't draw attention, I don't know what will.
Was it distorted?
Oh, it was it was so distorted.
It sounded like you were playing through a metal zone.
I probably should have told them before I came that it was going to be really, really distorted, but it ended up, I mean, those songs sounded more like AC/DC than what they were supposed to sound like. And I kind of felt bad, but at the same time, I was like, well, this is getting attention. This is what they wanted. I mean, I was singing Christian songs, but at the same time, it was very, very distorted.
That's
So
funny.
you were singing over top of the distortion.
Yeah. It was, like I said, it was something. I actually, a couple people took my picture because they had never seen anything like that.
You are a sight to behold.
I told them, I said, "Oh Lordy, I can't believe I let you guys talk me into this."
Now, what songs were you singing?
Yeah, just a couple of. Let's see. One of the songs was, an old one, "Blessed Be Your Name."
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I brought that.
Right?
Like I said, I love a lot of the older songs is what I like a lot. I mean, some of the newer stuff, as far as Christian music goes, is pretty good. With elevation worship and Jesus culture, and, certain bands like that. But I tend to lean back towards some of the older songs, like "Blessed Be Your Name," the Revelation song, and songs like that I know, eventually somebody out there has heard one of these songs.
Yeah, that's a
to some
good
extent,
way to do it.
So, to some extent, those songs are probably introduced to you at a crucial time, and they kind of stick with you. I have noticed that I go back to certain music that was introduced to me during my high school and college years. And even though a lot of music has come out since, I still go back to those songs.
Yeah, I'm the same way. That's why now that I'm, I actually play guitar instead of just dreaming to play guitar. I'm actually learning some of these older, songs that I used to listen to when I was in high school, and all these bands that I would listen to. Now I go back and learn their songs so that I can actually play them.
Yeah. Yeah, that's an interesting point. When I was at summer camp this last week, I ran the sound, and man, do I have I'll get on that in a minute. But I was talking to the worship leader, and he was like, what kind of songs does your group like? And he was going down the list, and I was saying, yeah, this one, that one, maybe this one not so much. And he said something, and this guy, I'm 33. I was a little bit older than this guy. I think he said he was 28. And he said, I don't mind reaching back 15 years if I have to sing songs that this group's going to like. And I really admired that, because I'm not knocking other groups that have come, but the trend has been, come in with the freshest songs that you possibly can. And, you lose the kids a little bit. I think kids are a little bit more willing to pick up on a new song than maybe an older crowd is. But at the same time, like, if you don't have something familiar for them, they're going to check out. And I really admired that he was willing to do that. And he played a very wide, array of songs, maybe that were 10 years old, maybe one or two there, and then he kind of took it modern as well. And I really appreciated that he was willing to kind of serve the moment and the group he was playing for. At the same time, I picked up a really new appreciation for seeing the other side of the coin, running sound, because I'm never sitting behind a desk, trying to mix a group, and it was just so much. First of all, like, it made me want to be a little bit more patient, when I'm sound checking and trying to get different monitor mixes going, because we were running like 3, and I couldn't hear what their mixes were because they were all in ear. And so I'm just kind of have to go off what they tell me, and communication is key there, right? And
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And it took a while to dial it in. One of the things I found that was interesting is, like, there was there was a vocalist, and she only wanted to hear certain things, but she was sharing a monitor mix with an acoustic guitar player who was singing a few songs. He wanted to hear like the band, so he could play with them. And so, there's a little bit like going back and forth between, I don't want to hear all this, I want to hear this, And so working through that was different to see that side of it, and made me really want to be a lot more, not that I'm trying to be rude, but I want to be a lot more polite now when I'm working with sound techs, because there's a lot of pressure. And so yeah, I had a newfound appreciation for that job and realized just how little I knew. And it was a learning experience, especially when you're working on a console. I mean, I've worked on digital boards, but this one was a little more harder to work with than some of the ones I've had my hands on. And just a newfound appreciation for that. I really...
What was the...
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. What was the hardest part you found? Was it doing the in-ear mixes?
Yeah, I think so, because you could tell something would be wrong, but like you couldn't pinpoint what it is. Like for one night, like one of the vocalists, he kicked off on a song that was very track driven, and I noticed like when they were playing with tracks and stuff, like a lot of times it'd be like really the only drummer is driving the song and everybody else is kind of laying out, and so he starts singing, and it's really, really pitchy. And I heard the guy before, and he was a good singer. And so I'm like, he must not be able to hear himself. So I'm over there, like, in that mix. I switch over to that mix, and I'm trying to turn him up. And then, like, it gets worse. And I'm like, oh. And, like, so finally, he, like, texts me from the stage and says, I can't hear the track. I said, oh, it's like, that wouldn't have been my first thing to think about. Like, I was thinking he could not hear his voice over the music.
Yeah.
But it was the reverse. He couldn't hear the music. So,
oh man.
Yeah, it was definitely a learning experience. And it's crazy. Sound is definitely, if everything is going right, nobody ever says anything to you. If it's going wrong, people are looking at you, trying to get your attention. And so we did 4 nights. By the 4th night, we'd gotten it pretty much down. I'd learned the group and their idiosyncrasies and what they wanted, and I'd communicated with them. But it was kind of sad because, okay, now that's over. It's like you spent all this time getting to know this group and doing a good job for them, and now it's over. So, but that's just the way it is.
That live sound can be tough, extremely tough. We had some issues out at the beach the other night, and I was sharing a monitor with it's 2 teenagers. One was on bongos, and one was on a small acoustic kit, but he wasn't plugged in anywhere. And then we had the main drummer on electric kit, but I was sharing a monitor with those 2 guys, and they were just beating the fire out of those drums. And I couldn't hardly hear myself.
Yeah.
And thankfully, I brought my cab, my guitar cab, which I just used with the Kemper, and that's the only way I would have heard myself.
Yeah.
I did not hear myself any other way. So, but live sound can be tough, and it's kind of like the kicker of a football team. If it's going good, like you said, nobody says anything. It's just expected. That's how it's supposed to be. But if you miss that field goal and it comes down to 1 point in the end,
yeah,
then everybody's looking at you. That's
a good analogy. One of the things I learned, and I knew this, it's just putting it into practice, is the 3rd night, I'm mixing. And the room never sounds like what it sounds like when it's full of people. You can sound check all you want, but when you get people, 400 people in there, the dynamics of the room change. And so, like, I had my master fader kind of down during sound check, and when they kick off, they're playing, and I start riding it up. And then what happens is the music got really loud, but the vocals weren't cutting through. And so I'm sitting there working on the vocals, and I couldn't get them to cut. And somebody comes up and complains and says, I can't hear the vocals. I'm like, yeah, I know, I'm trying. And he says, you just need to turn down everything so you can hear the vocals. I was like, okay. So I start backing off the things I hear, that are causing problems. Like, well, first thing is things get way too bassy. So I'm starting to, okay, let me dial back the bass guitar, and the keys, maybe like start EQing the keys, trying to pull down some of the lows. And the next night during rehearsal, I realized something, that the speakers, they're powered and they were wide open, and I dialed them back some, about half power. And when I did that, for whatever reason, we lost all the harshness in the room the next night.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We lost all that harshness where it was just throwing sound everywhere, and I was able to dial in a lot cleaner mix. And I realized we were just pushing way too much air in that room, I guess, and it just cleaned it up tremendously. And I think that was the night, I was able to live stream it and not or throw up some videos online, and I wasn't worried about people, saying, oh man, that mix is terrible. So
what is that sound man doing?
Yeah.
Get him out of there.
Yeah, I know, right? So,
well, that's the thing about live sound. Everybody likes to pick on the sound engineer, when a lot of times, it's with different rooms, the acoustics in different rooms change depending on so many different variables. It can be the amps that somebody brings. It can be how many people's playing in the band. It can be how many people you have in the audience. It can be dependent on so many different things. But, everybody always goes straight for all right, now, sound guy, you need to clean it up back there. What are you doing?
Yeah. There's all kind of things going on. First of all, the bass guitar, for instance, and I can understand this coming from being a player. He had just a 115 combo, like a Fender Rumble, and I don't think he realized it wasn't that loud, but in that room, it rumbled, and by the time he had a line,
Fender.
yeah, he had a line out, going to the sound system, and as I was trying to dial him in, it was his amp on stage was way louder, and it was I would have liked to have put it and bumped it in the subs, but it was competing with volume already. You know what I'm saying? And it's I couldn't put him in the house because that, and even on stage it was rumbling too much, So it was crazy. I was I didn't think that amp could carry like that in a huge room, but man, it did.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
You know what the best thing about those Fender Rumble basses are?
Yeah.
They're so light.
Uh-huh.
They're literally, it's like there's nothing in it.
Yeah.
A friend of mine, I can't remember which wattage he had, but he played in a band, and they were fussing at him because he didn't want to spend that much money, so he went and bought a Fender Rumble. And then, he let me come over and check it out. Well, I thought to myself, man, that thing looks like it's massive. He's like, well, go over there and pick it up. And, I went over there thinking it was going to be, like most bass amps, it was going to be heavy. Dude, that thing was so light. I was like, okay, maybe I just need to play bass.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I guess I've become a gear snob, in the last few years, and like I looked at that, like that guy bringing that in, and I kind of turned my nose up. I was like, that's not going to do a good job. You know, he needs, if he's going to be in this room, not running unless he runs direct, like he's going to need like an Ampeg, you know, 8x10 or something like that, and this thing put out, and I was surprised.
That's funny because
Yeah.
all my bass experience, they all run direct. I don't.
Yeah,
I've
most
not
of the
known
time.
too many bass players who actually bring an amp.
Yeah.
Just in my experience, everybody I played with mostly. Now I do know I have a buddy up in Tennessee. I say he's a buddy. He's a generation older than I am, or he could be an uncle or something like that. But he always fights with his sound guy. He turns his bass amp down low at the beginning, and he just keeps creeping it up during the service because the sound guy keeps turning it down. So
Yeah, I
so
dealt
there's
with a little bit of
there's
that
as
too.
well. I go to that a small country church, and we have a bass player there, and he does a great job. But we did have somebody, kind of an older lady, complain about it, and he asked me. I said, "Well, do you think I'm too loud?" And I said, "Only when you hit a wrong note. Sounds fine until you hit that wrong note."
Yeah, there's this guy in town. He plays, and he's semi-pro. Like he plays a lot of like wedding gigs and corporate gigs and stuff like that on the weekends. And he owns this pawn shop locally. And he one time he plays for his son. Okay, his son plays like keys at this church. One time I got invited over. His dad couldn't play for him that day. And so he asked me to come over and play bass for him. And he's like, I've got everything you need. Like, I've got a jazz bass, amp, everything. I was like, okay. So I just showed up. And the dude had like one of those Ampeg, like 8x10s in church. And I'm talking like
That's
this church
huge.
fits 100 people.
That's huge.
Yeah, that might be overdoing it just a little.
Yeah. And I mean, and they were like, yeah, that's the way he plays every week. He just blows the walls down. And I'm like, good gravy. So Doug, you were telling me about something else you did this weekend, right?
Yeah, we went to. I decided to finally go to a guitar shop because, unfortunately for me, where I live out in pretty much the sticks, it's not exactly easy for me to get to a guitar shop. The closest one is an hour and a half away. So I decided, since I had a little free time this Saturday, I'd ride to Roanoke
Okay.
and check out a local guitar shop that's there. And, you know, I had heard the guys from the Gear Slum talking about the new Fenders and, you know, I didn't expect them to be in the store already, but, you know, I got there and they had a whole rack of, you know, they had the Jaguar, they had the Stratocaster, they had a HSH Stratocaster. I didn't even know that was one of the newer ones. But, I mean, they had a whole line of all of these new Player Series guitars. And, I mean, just a quick thing. I mean, I know from what I read on the website that they redid the pickups for this series. They're calling them the Player pickups. But, I mean, from the way that the guitar felt and the way that it sounded, I mean, you really can't go wrong with getting something like that. I mean, they were really solid guitars, and the colors are fantastic.
Interesting. Michael, you've played those too, huh?
I have. Now, I have not plugged any of them in, but I've picked up several off the wall at my guitar store. They mostly Strats. They did have the new Jazzmaster as well, which doesn't even have Jazzmaster pickups in it. It's two humbuckers. So I know there's some complaints about that, but I picked up several of the Strats, and they all felt really, really nice. From my understanding, the new pickups are Alnico instead of the ceramic. So I don't know exactly what that'll mean. I don't think they'll be as hot, I guess. I don't know technically what all that means, but anyway,
Yeah.
they feel great. The fit and finish on them look fantastic.
Well, that's interesting. I'm hoping to put my hands on some of those when I go to NAMM here in a few days. Be going out there Thursday, and um, last year I stopped by the Fender booth, and it was crazy over there. Like, that was one of the booths that you could hardly get into. But I'm hoping to kind of get a first-hand look at that. They have a new one, acoustic, called like the Californian, that they've been advertising, that I really want to get my hands on. Because last year they had some acoustics that were like all solid woods, like I think the Newport, and they had two other models, I think, and they were fairly reasonably priced. They were a little, you know, more expensive than like their average acoustic line, but I really do want to play the one of the Player Series. I think it's an interesting move. They're replacing the Made in Mexico series. I'm assuming that these are going to be made in Mexico still, but
Yeah, they are.
yeah, I figured what they're doing is, typically any player who's been around a while knows they can go get a made in Mexico Strat, and this is the things on the checklist I'm going to have to go do to make this thing a player grade guitar. Need to upgrade the pickups. Maybe I need to do something with the bridge. Whatever. And I really feel like they're probably tired of seeing people maybe gravitate to other brands because they have this or that, and just kind of upgrade that whole lineup, for another maybe $100, maybe an extra $150. They fix all those problems, and their money's not walking off to all these other places, especially aftermarket pickups. I think that's a smooth move. Like, I'm gonna get, we're gonna line up a deal where we're putting in these nice pickups so people don't have to upgrade, and all the money's gonna come through us. I think that's wise, and
I
I
think
feel
it's
like,
a smart move.
yeah.
I think it's a refreshing look, based on what they've been. They upgrade cars every year.
Mhm.
So Fender's been doing the standard Strat for a while. They do have the 2-point floating bridge as well instead of the 6-screw
Yeah.
bridge. So I think that is a nice upgrade. I mostly like the new buttercream Strat. I think that just looks fantastic. That's
Oh
probably the
man,
one
that
that
thing looks great.
catches my eye the most out of all of them. I know some people like the what is it, the pull, or the Tide pull. That
Mhm.
doesn't catch my eye as much, but it's
Well, I wanted to ask you guys, because you've seen some of the line, but I saw pictures and I saw a jazz bass, but I didn't see a precision bass. Are they making one?
I don't know. I'm on their website. Let me check real quick.
Okay.
Yeah,
'Cause
I'm actually doing the same thing.
that would just blow my mind if they didn't have that. That's such a
Yeah, they
standard.
have a precision bass
Okay. Okay.
and a jazz bass and a Jaguar bass.
Oh, okay.
And the precision bass has 7 colors, the jazz bass has 7 colors, and the Jaguar has 3 colors. They also have a jazz bass 5
Okay.
with 2 colors, and a jazz bass fretless, and then a left-handed as well.
Okay. Yeah, I think they're knocking it
Yeah.
out of the park over there.
I
Really
love
tightening
what
things
Fender-
up.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm looking at these California series acoustics that you were talking about. They look great, and they've got so many different styles and so many different price points.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh, that's the ones that are red and blue and stuff. And
Yeah.
black and white and green. I do not like these. I've played a couple and I didn't care for them. That's just me.
If they would do a reissue like that looked like the Buck Owens acoustic, I'd be all over that. Like the one with the American flag on it.
Yeah,
okay. That's funny.
But
You know what? Maybe I played something lower line.
mhm.
There's some other ones that are those colors, but they aren't as much. So maybe the new California series is a better quality made.
Yeah, I would think I heard a video of one and it didn't sound like a Martin D28 or anything, but it sounded pretty good. And I was thinking this is probably like a player. They're probably focusing on the guy who's playing electric most of the set and is breaking out and playing one or two songs and wants a semi nice acoustic, not like high end. You know, that seems to be where they hit on their lineup most of the time. Is here's an acoustic that's a good player, but it's not like the most discerning tone. They kind of hit that mainly electric crowd from what I seen together. But what other have you guys seen anything else new releases coming up that you're curious about?
Should I go first, Doug, or would you like to go first?
I'll let you go first.
All right, I'm very excited. As people who have maybe heard me before, I have a Kemper, and Kemper just released the beta version of their new spring reverb, and it has drip. So I knew when I think it's Ventress
Mm-hmm.
came out with their pedal a little while back that it wouldn't be too long before we started seeing other pedals, and hopefully, I was hoping the Kemper as well. And sure enough, Electro Harmonics just came out with their Oceans 11, and then the Kemper just released their spring. But something interesting about the Kemper is that they've never gone to Summer NAMM, and so I think they have something coming that is going to be a lot bigger than this. I don't think they would come to Summer NAMM just because they're releasing a beta version of their spring
Yeah.
reverb. I think there's a lot of talk in my Kemper group about what's coming, and interestingly enough, Christoph Kemper was recently in a forum and replied back to some people about some things that are in the works. They didn't give any timelines or anything like that, but we've been asking for an editor like on the computer so we can
Mm-hmm.
tweak there and then move it to the Kemper, which the Helix and I believe the Axe-Fx already has. He said that's coming, but he did not give a timeline. And then there's more kind of reconstruction of things that are how they organize the effects and all that on the Kemper that he said is also coming. So I'm very interested about what they're actually going to announce. I very seriously doubt it'll be like Kemper 2.0. I don't think that's going to come for a long, long time.
Yeah.
But I think some other things are coming.
Well, you mentioned that, and first of all, if I can find them there, I definitely want to make a stop by their booth. But then I just remembered that the house I'm staying at, one of the guys is going to be, Jonathan Diaz has a Kemper, and he said he was going to bring it. So
There
I'm
you
going to
go.
actually get a chance to play through a Kemper, I think.
And somebody who's actually used one and can show you how to navigate it is going to be better than playing one that's just set up at NAMM.
Yeah.
Number one, I know he has good profiles on his Kemper that's going to be better than the Kemper comes with a bunch of profiles, but you kind of have to filter through them to find what's good.
Mm-hmm.
But I know he has some profiles that I even have that are good, so he can point you in the right direction. I know.
And
Well, that's got me excited, Cliff, and I've been wanting you to play one.
I'm gonna see if he can profile my amps. I plan on bringing mine, and maybe I don't know. Can he share profiles?
Yes.
I'm gonna see if he'll
Yes.
do that. Maybe he can send you some profiles of them.
Now he'll need some equipment to do that though, like a microphone. Well, at least let's see what else. You can do it, I think, with just a microphone, but it's better if you can run it through a board and kind of EQ it
I see.
as you. But you can do it just with a microphone. That's possible. So the better profilers that I know actually run two mics on it. like a SM57 and like a Fathead, I believe.
Mhm.
That's what Michael Britt does, who's very well known in the Kemper community. Tone Junkie, who's one of my favorite profilers, that he also uses that. Um, it's all about capturing that profile. If you get a good profile and capture it correctly, I mean, it sounds amazing.
Hmm. Well, I have to hit him up and see if he's capable of doing that. But that would be a fun project, I think, to take on. See if he could recreate my amps, you know. And if he could do that, might just go Kemper. So, well, is there any other releases that you've had your eyes on, or something you're curious about?
Not me. I don't think so. I'm trying to think. Not really.
Okay.
Kemper's is mostly what I've been looking at.
What about you, Doug?
I've been looking at a couple of things that I've seen, a couple people post about that are possibilities to come out. I don't know if they'll actually be there or not, but I'm always looking at pedals. So I saw that Keeley was releasing a compressor overdrive pedal, kind of like, because I know Clifton, that you have the Jekyll and Hyde by Visual Sound,
Mm-hmm.
and I know that they did. Now it's True Tone, but they did a compressor and overdrive dual pedal a few years ago, and looking at this, because I mean, already knowing Keeley, I mean, his compressors are just awesome, and any of his overdrive pedals are just great. So just the thought of him coming out with a compressor overdrive dual pedal
Oh yeah.
sounds pretty sweet.
Yeah, I saw where Sinusoid had wired up a board of his pedals. It's going to be seen at NAMM, and I really wanted to. I think I'm gonna have to go by there. Usually, it's usually like stuff like that. It's like the way crazy busy ones, but hopefully I get my hands on it sometime with it. Um, there's a lot of things I'm thinking about. I definitely Greer amps was talking about some new stuff they had coming out that's kind of keeping under wraps, and I want to go by there. I didn't get to spend any time last year there, and check out what they've got going on. See who else. I saw Yellow Cake today. They're going to be back. And I always have a fun time stopping by that booth and hanging out. I had a very, very interesting thing, and I suspect it was anybody who had a media pass, because I talked to some of my other buddies, and they had gotten an invite to go to Gibson's headquarters, and take a tour over there of their factory, and I'm kind of excited about doing that. I think it's probably like a PR move to try to show everybody, hey, we're still kicking, we're still operating over here, we're not dead yet, kind of deal.
Yeah.
I'm not dead yet.
And so I don't know what the intentions are, but they offered to give us free barbecue, and I couldn't turn that down. So I definitely want to see what they're doing over there, and maybe it kind of puts some of those rumors to rest. Maybe they're up on an uptick again. What else?
What about harmony guitars? That was one of the things that caught me at Winter NAMM, and I have not heard a peep out of anything. I know they got a website up, but that's been up for a long time.
Yeah, that's interesting. I know they had some trouble at Heritage Guitars. That's part of that same conglomerate. Like had some issues right after NAMM.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
I'm curious what's going to happen there. But now that you said that, I'm going to try to see if I can't find out what's going on there. That will be a good litmus test to whether or not we'll probably see something in the future if they're back at NAMM.
Yeah, definitely look for them. That was one of the more interesting things from Winter NAMM that I saw, or at least can remember.
Yeah. I'm trying to think what else. Spruce Effects. I talked to him. He's gonna be in town and probably gonna come out to NAMM some. Kind of hoping to see kind of what he's got. I know he had a prototype he was working on that he was going to kind of under the radar have available by now.
What about Pelican Noiseworks?
Pelican Noiseworks. I don't think Leon's coming. He just went to a show out in New York City though, a few weeks ago.
Okay. Well, he just got Paul that pedal, the Benson 6100 or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that Benford pedal is sweet.
That is totally awesome. I think he's actually, unless that was just a one-off, but from my understanding, that's going to be another pedal, but that he's going to produce. But I could be wrong. But I don't know that it's necessarily going to be called the Benford. Is it 5100 or 6100 or what?
I think it's a 6100. I'm not
Okay.
sure.
Interesting. Yeah, I want to know some more about that. I guess I could hit up Paul and ask him.
I'd say he definitely ask him. He told me a couple of things that thing does. I don't think I'm allowed to say too much about what it does.
Mm-hmm.
But man, the things he sent me that it does is awesome, man. Leon's
well, I need to ask him because I know he publicly said that he didn't want to reveal too much. Leon told him, do whatever, but Paul didn't want to reveal too much about it. So
the only thing he leaked out on his podcast was that it had a fuzz reverb.
Oh my goodness.
Okay.
But the other things that thing does, oh man, it's awesome. I can't wait to see or wait for Paul to come out with a demo of that pedal. It's gonna be something.
Yeah. One of the things this is a concern I have about NAMM, is like some of the chatter on the groups I've seen is some of the guys, especially the boutique guys, are choosing not to go to NAMM, Summer NAMM this year, for whatever reasons, and that kind of concerns me because I kind of wonder. I know last year I went and the people who are veterans there was talking about how light it was, that hardly anybody was there and the crowd was way down, and I have a concern that maybe there's a shift in the industry away from that type of sort of thing. It's a great place to meet people and everybody's in one place, but at the same time, a guy whose margins may be razor thin, is that really the best investment for them, or could they do some online marketing? And so I'm wondering if that's a trend. And then I know that Sweetwater Gear Fest was this last weekend.
Yeah.
But there's a big difference in that one and Summer NAMM, and it's the week before, so they're getting a lot of the press releases are on their side, because here everything's getting leaked at Gear Fest now, and then like by the time it makes it to Summer NAMM, it's not all that brand new.
Well, my understanding of Summer NAMM, and I could be wrong, but from my understanding, Summer NAMM is a lot of business. It's a lot of this company makes this thing, and they're connecting with retailers to become, carriers of their brand.
Mm-hmm.
So I know my local music store goes to Summer NAMM, and they end up, I think they went to Summer NAMM last year. I could be wrong. But I think there's a lot of business that happens, and it's less on the revealing what's coming.
Right.
That's just been my perspective.
Yeah, that's what I gather too. I think you're correct on that. Because like last year I went and I saw the music store I frequent, the staff there from Hattiesburg, the store there, that was up at NAMM. And they're making decisions about cutting deals with maybe Fender or Taylor, Martin, whatever, for the year. And this is what we want to stock you with. Will you do this? How many can I put you down for? That kind of deal. There's also a lot of these like conglomerate type companies, say like they might have like Washburn under their umbrella, and then they may have like a horn line, and they may have like a key keys line, and it's kind of like a one-stop shop. You have like some of the smaller music stores, retailers, they kind of gravitate to those types of booths where, hey, I can, whatever company that's like some big conglomerate, we can stock you with everything you need and several different brands, and I could see that kind of being a thing. What I go to NAMM for is really the boutique stuff. I mean, that's what I'm going for is see all the smaller guys, stuff that you won't see at the retail stores. And I'm wondering, how much longer is that going to be the case where these guys are choosing to go to trade shows like that?
Yeah. I don't know. It's a lot of investment, and I think I've heard other folks talk about you can get a lot more bang for your buck doing other things. But if you're a small guitarist and you can get your guitars placed at somebody else's booth, then that may work out well. I would honestly love to go to either Summer NAMM or Winter NAMM, which would be awesome, or Gear Fest, any of those, just to hang out with people, honestly. Just to meet some of these people that we know through our groups and podcasts and such, just to hang out.
Yeah.
I mean, that seems to be what the main thing I hear about NAMM. I mean, yeah, everybody likes looking at the new gear and the new things that come out, but I mean, with the community that all of these podcasts have built around gear, I mean, a lot of these guys go and they're looking at new stuff. They're getting content for their podcast, but at the same time, they're really just going to hang out with their friends and have a good time.
Yeah, I think that what happens at NAMM mostly happens after NAMM. The going and hanging out afterwards and the networking that happens there. That's really, I think, what most people go for. I know for me, like what I'm trying to do as a podcast is bring that to all of my community and friends who can't be there, like through a live stream or an interview, or trying to highlight this is what this is about, and try to bring it to everybody. That's really, my goal. And, even down to the experiences. If I go have hot chicken, I want you guys to, know about this cool hot chicken place or this barbecue, or, just highlighting the whole culture that's going on there. That's what I'm shooting for, and so I'm looking forward to going. I hope that it turns out to be a good trip, and just hopefully can find out some guys for some info on some of these things, like the Player Series. I'm excited. It's always, you never know what you're gonna get when you get there, but it's always good.
It's like a box of chocolates.
That's it. It's like a box of chocolate.
When you were at Winter NAMM, I definitely appreciate you put out on the group, hey, what do y'all want me to look? And I was like, oh, go look at Kemper. Oh, go look at Harmony. Oh, go look at this. Oh, go look at that. And you did most of that, except Kemper. You broke my heart. But that's all right.
Well, it was so vast that, like,
I'm just joking.
Yeah, one day I literally walked 12 miles. I checked it on my phone, and it was just insane. It was like you get your butt kicked a little bit. So
yeah,
Summer NAMM is not like that. So I think it will be a lot more easy to manage, and I already kind of know the lay of the land there. And
you won't have those West Coast elites either.
Yeah, no coastal elitists this time.
I wish some of those West Coast elites would come out to these events, but I can't talk them into it.
Well, it's probably for the same reason. Now, you're the crazy one, but for the same reason that a lot of people on this coast don't go out there. It's just plane travel and all that. Plus, I know some of them have gone, or like Ryan, he has flown to Germany. He just flew to Gear Fest. So I don't think he's coming to Summer NAMM, is he? I don't think he is.
No, he's not.
Yeah, I was last year?
Yeah. He came to Summer NAMM last year, and he told me there that he didn't plan to probably come to this one. He was going to try to do Gearfest next year, and so he followed through with that. And I was watching all that coverage this weekend, just so super jealous.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
It looks so great.
Yeah, I was like, I can't do both though. I have to make a choice. And
where is Gearfest? Is that up in Illinois?
Fort Wayne, Indiana.
Indiana.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Man, if I could make it up there, I think I'd probably do that one.
Yeah. That's
It did sound like a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that slide alone is probably worth the trip.
Brings out the big kid in all of us. I was just going to mention where you said something about the Sinusoid event. I got an email from them talking about how they were going to have their first actual booth.
Oh.
And looking at the flyer they sent me, this thing looked. I mean, you're going to have to go check this out, Clifton, because it looks like they're going to have all kinds of stuff going on.
I was unaware that they had their own booth. That's interesting. I'll have to definitely go see that. And it's always, I know Anthony and Albert are going to be there, and so it'll be good to see them.
Yeah, it looks like Big Air Pedals is presenting the Boutique Effects Pedal Showcase.
Yeah, he did that last year, and
Oh man,
that's a really cool thing he does. Except, this says Big Ear, but he doesn't have that big of ears. Wah, wah, wah.
Perfect place for a joke.
Yeah, that's it. What about you, Michael?
I was just gonna make a joke that if y'all want to talk more temper, then we can. No, I'm just joking. Y'all Big Ear NYC? I have the woodcutter from him. I like it.
I have wanted a woodcutter ever since I heard everybody talking about them. I just like how you can use them for. I mean, it's a good distortion for both guitar and bass.
Yes, I want to try it on bass. I have not tried it on bass yet.
Now, Paul swears by the way the woodcutter does for bass.
Yeah, he's a huge fan of that.
Yeah, I know that Grant has a reputation for being like the man when it comes to the Rat circuit. Like that's like where he hones in.
I like the woodcutter, but I prefer my Soothsayer, which is the Arc Effects, just because I have more options on it. The woodcutter, from my understanding, is a spot on presentation or a spot on, I guess, representation of the person who used to make them that I guess went by the name woodcutter, from my understanding. But the Arc Effects, for me, gives me a lot of options that I don't have with the woodcutter.
Mm-hmm.
The woodcutter's great. Don't get that wrong. The woodcutter's great, but the Arc Effects allows me to set the gain a little lower or clip the diodes a little different, and so I find I use that one a little more, but both are fantastic.
Yeah, I'm gonna make my way over there. Probably spend some time at that booth, just because there's so much cool stuff. I mean, Grant's really doing a cool thing. There's guys all across the country who don't even get to go to, who will, work out a deal with Grant to have their pedal featured there, and so it's really cool. Matter of fact, if there is a Pelican Noiseworks, that's probably, I would imagine, where I could find it. So,
Oh yeah.
So hopefully,
definitely.
hopefully he'll have something there. Yeah, so I'm looking forward to it. I just want to throw this out there that I'm going to release this before I go to NAMM, and if any of you guys, if I don't know that you're going to be there, but you're going to be there, hit me up and let me know. I'd love to meet you and hang out. And also, I heard that Jonathan Fellows was going to be there, and looking forward to hanging out with him and seeing him again with Fellows guitars. And so, and Kevin Equus is going to be there. I'm excited about seeing him again.
Those two guys, their guitars and the Cower guitars are three guitars I'd love to get my hands on.
Oh yeah.
Or like a Titan. I would love to get my hands on a Titan.
I was just gonna say, I don't know if Cowers. I haven't heard that he is gonna be there. I don't know.
I hadn't heard anything either. You just got me thinking about guitars that I would love to get my hands on.
Yeah. What were you gonna say, Doug?
Oh, I was just gonna say I'm super jealous of you getting to play those guitars because those are guitars I dream about.
Well,
So definitely play a few of them for me.
I'm hoping that I heard through the grapevine that there may be some Equus guitars getting passed around, so hoping to
Oh,
get my hands
nice.
on that. And so that's why next year, guys, you need to plan to come to NAMM. You never know what you're gonna see. It's like a box of
Just
chocolates, right?
man, I wish I was going
Exactly.
this year. There's so many people up there, or people that I know from my different groups that are going, that I wish I could go.
Yeah. Well, um, so I'm excited to maybe share what I find there, and so like I said, if you plan on being there, hit me up. I'd love to hang out and meet you. Um, if you follow us at our website, thecliftonworleyshow.com, and I was talking today. We've actually got some T-shirts available for sale. I was telling Michael about it today. It's at cliftonworleyshow.threadless.com, I believe. And anyways, if you'd like a Whirly Bird T-shirt, they're available there. And if you would, if you like what you're listening to, would love a subscribe and maybe a review. If you let me know what you think of the show, and I would very much appreciate it. And so, thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you later.